Amy with Cake Lessons. We are down here at the beach and I don't have a lot of equipment. As a matter of fact, I didn't even really have a hand mixer, and I wanted to make a cake for Cake Lessons. And I got to thinking, you know, Granny sometimes would whip up a cake in a bowl with her beaters, and I thought, I want to do that. So I know I can do it with a chocolate cake. So I'm going to show you today how you can mix up a delicious cake layer without using an electric mixer, whether it be a stand mixer or a hand mixer. We're going to do it simple, just homemade from scratch, delicious, moist chocolate cake. So get ready and let's get started. I'm going to teach you how to mix up a delicious chocolate cake, and you can really use this recipe for any cake, and not just chocolate if you want to, but I'm going to teach you how to do it even if you don't have a mixer. The perfect ratio is 1 for flour, 1 for sugar, and 3/4 for shortening. So I'm going to show you what I do. Okay, so today I'm actually going to do a chocolate cake, and cocoa really dries out cake. So today I'm actually going to melt some Baker's chocolate. This is a 4-ounce bar of Baker's chocolate. So we're going to get it in the microwave and we are going to melt it. I'm going to chop it up a little bit first. So we're just chopping up our chocolate a little bit so that when we get it in the microwave, we don't want to burn it. We just want to melt it. And I'm afraid that if we don't get it pretty small, then it will burn. Now, if you don't want to take the steps that I'm taking to chop up your chocolate, you can always buy chocolate chips. But I like to do it this way because it's Baker's chocolate, okay? All right, let's get this in our bowl. And the first thing we're going to do is melt this chocolate with a stick of butter. Now, if I use 2 cups of flour, that means I have to use 1.5 cups of shortening or butter. So 1 stick is 1/2 cup. So I'm going to put in, let me chop this up a little bit. I'm going to put in 2 sticks, and then we're going to use a little bit of shortening. We're going to use 1/2 cup of shortening. Make sure it's full. I gotta get something to get this out of this cup with. Need a spatula to get stuff out of a cup like this. Get it all out. All right, we're gonna put this in the microwave and we're just gonna watch it close. We're gonna beat it when we get it out each time. So the first interval will be 30 seconds. I'm gonna put it on 30-second intervals. So we're just going to mix it up a little bit and then put it back on another 30 seconds. And remember, this is making a cake without a mixer, so it's easy to do. If you melt everything and then you mix it up, then it's easier to mix with a wire whisk. And that's what I like to do, because it's hard to beat up soft butter and shortening by hand unless you want to work yourself to death. So if you melt it, it's going to melt in the oven anyway. It'll work. Okay, it's been in there another 30 seconds, so we're just going to continue to just use our spatula and mix it some. And once all of the shortening and the butter is melted, then we can start beating it up with our whisk. Smells so good. Okay, the shortening's still not melted. I'm gonna let it get another 30 seconds. We can grease our pan while we're waiting on it to melt. I'm gonna put a little shortening in here. Make sure you do a good job so it will release. So put a little shortening in it, okay? Don't be scared. Make sure you get the corners good so they'll release. Rub it in flat. Then you're just going to take a little bit of flour. And make sure the flour gets all over the pan. I personally like to do this over the trash can. I do. Just so that I don't have to wash the flour up out of my sink. So get your trash can. And, I mean, if you have a flour bowl, you can do it over your flour bowl. But if you do it over the sink, then you've got to get all this flour out of the sink, and that's not always easy. Or you could do it over another pan and then pour it back in your flour bowl, whatever you want to do. Over your pan, and then I usually, because I don't want flour all over my cake, do that a couple of times to get the extra flour out, okay? Now let's check on our shortening and butter and chocolate. We should be able to beat it with a wire whisk now. So it took about at least 2 minutes. It looks good. Smells delicious. Okay, let me wash my hands. And we are going to add the sugar next. This is going to be a 2-cup flour recipe, so you're going to use 2 cups of sugar as well if you want it good and sweet. And this is this chocolate is not sweetened, so you want to make sure and go ahead and put in the 2 cups of sugar. So there's 1 cup. And if you want to, you can use some brown sugar as well. I was going to go half and half with it, with the next cup. And I don't have another half cup, I don't think. That's what this is. Yeah. So what I'm going to do for the next cup is I'm going to use half a cup of brown sugar, half a cup of white sugar. So it winds up being 1.5 cups of granulated sugar and a half cup of packed brown sugar. Now you should be able to mix this fine with your wire whisk. So you're going to mix all the sugar in next. And that's it. Now we're going to add our eggs. And I've got 3 eggs in this bowl, and I'm going to beat them up with a fork. And then we're going to add them in and whisk it. So let's get the eggs in here. Now I'm going to use self-rising flour. It's fast, it's easy, and it works. I'm going to go ahead and put in 1 cup of flour before we add any more liquid. quite have that one full, so I'll put a little tiny bit extra. You can use water, you can use milk, or you can use coffee, whatever you want to use. If you're making a white cake layer, you can use fruit juice. But just make sure you got a cup of liquid. Now, because we're hand mixing this and we melted our shortening and butter, the mix is going to look really runny, but it's fine because the shortening and butter at room temperature will be thicker once the cake finishes cooking. If I don't slosh it out and make a mess. Let's go ahead and add the rest of our flour in here. If you don't have a lot of money and you want to make a cake homemade, you don't have to have a mixer. And so you can use this method and make a cake homemade and not have to have a hand mixer. And I just wanted to show y'all that because not everybody has a hand mixer. Not everybody has a stand mixer. But everybody can afford to buy a whisk, and it needs to be a wire one. And everybody, you know, when you go to the grocery store, can pick up a bar of chocolate. And if you can, then just use vanilla with your flour. If you use self-rising flour, you don't have to have the rest of the stuff to go in it. Now you need to mix it good to make sure that flour gets in there good. Put a teaspoon of vanilla in here. Is this extract? Yeah. If you have flavoring, I usually double it. But if you've got real extract, a teaspoon's plenty. Now we just got to beat this really good to get all that flour mixed in. So it's simple, that's it. Looks good. Let's get this in the oven at 350. I'm going to show y'all how to make some little pretty pinafores out of this cake so that if you have something to go to and you want to take something pretty and you can't afford to go buy a decorated cake or pinafores from the store, I'm going to show y'all how to use a very economical way to make really pretty little pinafores out of this homemade cake mix. Okay, so let's get this in the oven. It looks like it's got a lot of bubbles in it to me, so I think I'm gonna beat it a couple of times on the counter to bring the bubbles to the top. You can watch them bust when I do that. Now they're coming up some more. You might just want to let it sit a second so that all the air rises up out of it. You can see them. Okay, get it in the oven. 350, put it right in the center of the rack, in the center of the oven. It's probably going to take it a good 30 minutes. You're going to get it out when the toothpick comes out clean in the center. Okay, this is ready. It is a little bit soft in the middle, but that's really how I like chocolate cake, and I'll probably trim it because we'll probably make some pinafores out of this. It looks delicious. It looks perfect to me. I wish I could taste it. I might just get a little bite off the top because I'm going to trim it anyway later. Let's give this chocolate cake a taste. Because we can. It's hot. Good. Delicious. I hope you've learned your lesson today. That new cake recipe that you can always use, 2 cups of flour to 2 cups of sugar and 1 1/2 cups of shortening or butter. You can mix them up like we did today. You can mix up the sugars, you can mix up the type of shortening or butter, and you're gonna have a delicious cake with 3 eggs. So y'all just remember that in your head and you won't ever make a bad recipe again. even if you're mixing it up with your hand. Thanks for watching Cake Lessons.